Okay, now we're live. All right. Good morning, Darryl. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic, my friend. How are you?
That's good. That's good. It's good that we get to chat a little bit. Well, I was telling everybody this was who they're asking me about you today, and my students. I'm like, who is he? And I said, this was my partner in Phase A of Krav Maga instructor training. When
Way back
I
then.
was like, well, like when I got done with day one, I'm like, what am I freaking doing? And so that's I told him, I said, we'll have some good stories about that back and forth so you guys can get a little. But what I'll do is I'm going to go ahead and let you introduce yourself, Darryl, and where your school is and where you live. You know, you're a dad also. I've always commented on your daughter, man. She's got these steel blue eyes that are just unreal. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
she gets a lot of
I've
attention.
watched her grow up now for years, and I'm like, man, her eyes are just like something else, man. So yeah,
Yeah.
she's a beautiful little girl. And now, is that your only child too, or do you have
No,
a?
I have
You have a
my son. He lives up in Fresno
he's up in
with his
Fresno.
mom. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and let you introduce yourself, where your academy is, and we'll get going. So go ahead,
Right on.
Coach.
All right. Well, my name is Coach Darryl Johnson. I've been doing martial arts for about 33 years now. I have an academy in the San Diego area, just a little east of San Diego, and started Krav Maga in 2001 with my friend Mark Cox. He's here, and I've been passionate about teaching others for 30 years and what training several disciplines, and as a fitness instructor, really blessed to make a positive impact in people's lives.
Yeah, you've done this now. I've watched you now over the years. So you're right. So we started 2001 together. This is when you and I went through 7 days of straight hell in
Yes.
L.A. It's funny because back in those days, I had a Jaguar back in those days, right?
Mhm.
And I remember we'd leave early in the morning and we put in the address, and she had this Australian or London accent, that she
Right.
has, right? And we'd pull into the parking lot at Worldwide, and she'd be like, "You have arrived at your destination," and I'm just like, "Ugh, God." And I remember that every day we'd had to hear her say that, right? So we did start. I'm not. Let's. What I don't know is we were partners on in Krav Maga on level phase A. That's how
Mhm.
we met each other because
Right.
Bo didn't go with me just yet. I was here by
Mm-mm.
myself from my school, and I think you were there by yourself from your
Yes.
school. And that's how you and I kind of just paired up. We just
Mhm.
kind of synced and worked out with each other on phase A, and we were there seven days, seven
7
straight
days.
days, and a minimum of 8 hours a day,
Yeah.
and of just getting pounded, just getting our ass whooped. You know what I mean? I don't know. Do you remember that, Daryl? I remember leaving because, well, you stayed, I think, because your drive was so much. I think you stayed in a hotel, right?
Yeah, I stayed in the hotel.
Yeah, and so because you're driving back and forth, so I was able to get back on the 405 and go back home every day, right? And I remember, the 405 is such a nightmare freeway,
Yeah.
but I used to just enjoy so much to be in packed traffic just to decompress from what just happened from the day, right? And I was like, I was like, man, because I told everybody how we do. I took the good and bad from our experiences there, and I'm not sure if 7 days is something that was needed, uh, or not. I think it was they needed it just so that we can get the shit beat out of us is what is
Mhm.
more likely what happened there. But because we were fighting every day, they had fresh people every day,
Yeah.
and you know, we were pretty seasoned as far as martial arts go, but we I guess we had to be broken down. I guess that was their key to kind of absorb and live what Krav Maga was, and so would I trade the experience? Absolutely not, because I
Mm-mm.
don't think if I didn't have that experience, I wouldn't have had been able to not I don't want to say fix it, but make it more, you know, attainable to be a good teacher. So when we were going through that, I mean, do you feel that there was good teaching for us, or what do you feel on that? What was your takeaway from it? You know, from coming from a traditional background type thing and to that.
Yeah. My initial takeaway is kind of what you alluded to. Is it was basically about physically breaking us down to, bring us all down to the same level. I do remember distinctly, though, how no one really briefed me on what was going to happen. And I,
Mm-hmm.
I remember in our group, I think about half the folks were students at the main facility, so they already kind of knew what was going on. And I remember thinking, like, the last time I trained like this was when I was doing full contact fighting when I was younger, and it was man, it was tough. But I think there was an overemphasis on conditioning, and I would have liked to do more of the nuances of teaching, since
Right.
that's what we're there for.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I think that's what I took away from that, our certifications are 3 days, and, there's some written tests because I think history is important and understanding what we're getting into. And so ours is more 3 days, not that it doesn't, smoke you a little bit, but
Mm-hmm.
nothing to the extent of what you and I went through. And, with them, because did you go through all expert series too with worldwide, or did
I
you?
went through at least one or two of the expert series, and those
Mhm.
those were, I believe, 4-day workshops
Right.
back then.
Right. Yeah. 4 days. Well, it's like the military, right? We went through phase A, and I think that was a weeding out process to see,
Yeah.
okay, which one of you guys are too much of a wuss to make it through, and trust me, I had to talk. I talk a big talk, but I have to talk myself into coming back every day, right? I'm
Mhm.
like, every day was like, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this?
Well, I
And
remember the hotel I had was this little outside town. It was at the second floor, and it was like a motel, so there was no elevator. I remember every morning after getting dressed and getting ready to head back to the academy, it was a very long walk from the second floor down the stairs to the car.
Yeah, I could totally relate to that. Because I told them, I've told my students before, I said, hey, man, and where this was here, I believe that we were in June too. I think we were right in smack in the middle of, uh, of summer
It was
on,
August.
it was August. Yeah. I
Yeah.
remember because it was hot as balls in there, man. I'm telling you. And I remember them having a trash can, and I remember us puking here and there, going through the AC just didn't work all that well, and
Hmm.
what that was. But yeah, that experience, I wanted to go over that with people today, because they had asked. I tell them about it. I said, it's like anything else. I can tell you about it till you're blue in the face, but until you experience it, man, it's
Hmm.
brutal. It is a brutal thing. And
Yeah. Well,
then we had, I think we
and
had to
depending on
fight
which room we
overnight.
were in was
Yeah,
depending on how well the airflow and the
right.
AC was working.
you know, or we were doing, I said there was a parking garage there too. So they, depending on the instructor, they had no problem taking us out
Right.
and, and smoking us out in the parking lot either. So yeah, it was quite a thing. Now, what made you gravitate towards that? What made you look at Krav Maga?
Well, that's an interesting story. So earlier in the year, I was up in Aziz's school over in I don't remember where he is. Fairbourse, and I was doing a Melody Schumann workshop for Little Ninjas. And at lunch, we were all at a table, it's a bunch of us, and I was mentioning how I really wanted to do a self defense only program to go with the adult Taekwondo program I had. And one of the guys there, his name was John Gabriel. He's like, "Oh man, this program I'm doing, it's amazing. I just started it. It's awesome. You got to do it." Yeah, I'm sure you know John. He's
I know, yeah,
super high
John.
energy.
Yeah, John and I are
So
friends. Yeah.
yeah, so he's like, "All right, well, let me look into this." And I talked to the guys, went up to the academy a couple of times, And then said, yeah, this sounds philosophy wise is what I'm looking for. And it's pure self-defense. It's not a cultural or artistic expression. So that's what appealed to me. And, yeah, I like Krav Maga.
Hmm. I did not know that's a story I didn't know about you where you did. I didn't know you were at Farbor's school either. I'm a black belt of his in
Oh,
Keto. Yeah, I've known Farbor's forever, and I don't know. I usually go to his workshops. Gosh, I could have even been there for all I know. You know what I
maybe.
mean? Because I remember him holding those things there, and then so you saw John Gabriel, and he's the one that kind of turned you on to it.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
so now, how I don't know if you know the story, but how I got into it, and I tell everybody was I was actually so everybody knows that Darren Levine is an attorney, a district attorney, and
Hmm.
his specialty is the crimes against police officers, and so his boss at the time, who is a judge now, his kids were black belts of mine.
Oh,
That's how that happened, and then he had asked me. He goes, "Hey, maybe you should look into this Krav Maga," and he's got some instructors. And Kevin was the one that was going to come here and teach Krav Maga, and that's how it started with me. So, uh, Darren Levine actually came to my academy and invited me to a gun seminar. The gun seminar is the first thing that I had introduced to, and I remember leaving the gun and going, "Wow, none of my black belts that I have could do this.
hmm.
Could defend themselves against a gun." It was just so fresh and new that traditional martial arts did. You know what I'm talking about? They did.
Yeah.
We did stupid one steps and outside crescent kicks against knives and stupid. I mean, just even when we did it, we're like, we know this is stupid. Why do we
Yeah.
do it?
It's
And
also.
because we really didn't have an answer, right? And then Krav Maga had that answer.
Mhm.
I was impressed that in a 4-hour time frame that everybody in the room could basically defend themselves if somebody pointed a gun in their face. I was impressed with that, and that's how I started Krav Maga in my school. But myself, I found quickly that you know Kevin couldn't be here as often. We didn't have a lot more instructors, and it was evident if I was going to keep this program that I'm going to have to be some of the face of it, and that's how I went into Phase A. And I remember sitting in an office with an interview, and it was expensive. I tell everybody it was very
Mhm.
expensive for us to.
Mhm.
I mean, it was a $6,000 investment right up front,
Oh, easily.
and then a monthly of $400 to $600 depending on where your location was. And I remember sitting there and they're going through the interview process and uh, being told that your traditional martial arts really doesn't serve you well at all. I was like, man, that's my whole life's work, and you're just freaking dogging it. I remember it totally. I remember that, and I still went for it because I had to at this point. I'm already in it now, so that's my background of how I got into Krav, and then you and I we did spend a week there together in Phase
Mhm.
A. I'm almost positive we did Phase B or C together. I just remember us at least twice being partners for a 7-day work week. I
Yeah,
just
that
remember it,
sounds familiar.
you know, and I ended up bringing Bo with me at that time, and I think you got to meet him and stuff too.
Mhm.
So. Uh, he was super talented at the end. You know how he goes. He's still a freaking beast, but he's got a big old school in Idaho now. He had a
Oh, good
really
for him.
huge school in Huntington Beach for many years. That's where he opened up a major school, and then it got bought out by the city. As a matter of fact,
Oh.
wanted to put a freeway right through his school, so they bought him out, and then he moved to Idaho and opened up a school in that, which is doing really well now too. So that's his little background. But so let's talk about a couple things, Coach. You did um, we've watched each other for over the years. You've watched when I was at my heaviest, and then
Mhm.
I went on a health kick to get myself healthier and lose a lot of weight. And
Yep.
we're talking about 110 pounds, and But you've done the same thing. You've had a major transformation. Let's talk about what in your head decided that, and what in your head made, because you were a thick boy yourself at one point. You know.
Yeah. Well, growing up as a kid, I was overweight, and I was overweight by the standards at the time, which by today's standards would be very normal. But I was always picked on, and one of the things that was really catalytic for me to get in shape is my senior high school. I just decided to stop being fat, and then along that journey, I got into martial arts, and that's helped. And then I got into full contact kickboxing, which obviously required you to be in good shape. But I was still struggle. But what the catalyst was, it was about, I think it was about 5 years ago, almost exactly. I was teaching an Israeli tactical gun defense certification at my friend's school in Arizona. And as I'm teaching, he's taking pictures and doing videos, and I knew I wasn't in peak shape, but he sends me over the pictures a couple days later, and I'm looking through. I'm like, damn,
Yeah.
I am really, really chubby. And so I remember this is right around 4th of July, maybe last week of June, like it is right now. And I said, well, I have a business conference August 5th in New York City. I'm gonna I think I was like 213, 214 at the time, which I'm only 5'9", so that's pretty hefty. And said, I'm gonna be below 200 pounds when I go to this workshop. And I had been a personal trainer for years, so I knew how to do this. It's just a matter of, doing what you know. So I did. I got really focused. I went from 213 to 199, and then the next step was from 199 to 189 and 189, and I got down to like 175 pounds, and I'm bigger than that now. I'm actually going to do another 28-day course July 5th for a different target I have. But the pictures that I got from my buddy when the angle wasn't what I chose. It was just candid. That's a very humbling thing.
Yeah, cameras and scales are like, things that you just can't get away with. It's funny on Facebook, with the filters and everything else that goes on, and you can kind of create an angle and make yourself look really good. And but in reality, that mine came from, I had blood clots, and I got it actually from throwing a kick, and that it swole my leg, and it just never went away, and they missed the clots. And I was actually shooting tests at the time, some TRT, and then I'm told that, and I flew in an airplane, and it was just a disaster waiting to happen. And why I'm still here, I'm not really sure, but it could have taken me. And then I remember laying in the bed there too, and saying, wow, something's going to have to change here. But, I see you talk a lot, Coach, about your, mindset and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And you had a mind shift change. Mine actually took me 6 months. I was in my own head after that blood clot thing, that I would lay down at night and I would think, I even had to have a CPAP machine and the whole 9 yards, right? Back at the time, until I lost all that weight. And then I sound like a bear hibernating at night. And then, every time something happened, or my heart would feel, so I would feel like I'm going to have a stroke, or I'm going to, something's wrong. And, and of course I was put on blood thinners, and I'm still not off those, unfortunately. They're just not, thanks to COVID, it hasn't helped out that, COVID does blood clots, but, or more the vaccines. Thank you very much. So, it took me 6 months to get out of my own head. Let's talk about you. You have some clients, so you've helped a lot of people do this kind of stuff. So let's get some of your philosophies on mindset, and how you change, how you flipped, and then how you help your clients flip.
Well, for me, and again, when I first got in shape as a teenager, And then when I get focused on a program now, it's a very instantaneous thing. It's not like I get a book out and I map it out. It's like, you know what, let's do it. And I don't always succeed. And just like many people, I will sometimes I'll go great for a week or two, then things happen and I get off track. With the clients, and this is where the success really comes from, is it's two things. It's having skin in the game and having somebody hold you accountable. So when we do our courses, they have to pay for that. And I have over the years many times done free courses and they don't work. There's no skin in the game. There's no mental penalty if they don't follow through. And the most important part, whether it's free or paid, is to know that somebody else, some authority, is going to be holding you accountable to follow your plan, stay on track, and someone to guide you when you make mistakes. But most importantly, it's knowing that your actions and your decisions, you will be held accountable for. And if you can do that, your chance of success goes up 1,000%. I will tell you one thing that I tell all my clients ever since I was a trainer back in the 90s, and that is the single most determinant factor of whether a client will be successful with losing weight or bulking up is whether or not he or she tracks what they consume. If they track what they eat and drink, then that does two things. It allows me as a trainer to see data and possibly make changes. But more importantly, the act of recording it, whether you're writing it on a tablet or nowadays use the apps on the phone, is you're now mindful of what you're actually consuming. Doesn't mean it won't be bad. It just means that now you're aware of it. So the mindless grazing and the whole, I can't tell how many clients over the years I've had that are 100 pounds overweight and well, I don't know, I eat pretty good. Well, the evidence would suggest that's not true. So if you write down or record or even if you just take pictures, everything you eat or drink, within a very short time, it'll become apparent how to solve whatever issue is facing you in this, body composition realm.
So you're I think you're absolutely right on that. My biggest success came when when I went on the keto diet, and put myself in ketosis and really cut out carbs.
Mm-hmm.
I used that carb manager, right?
Mm-hmm.
And for macros and stuff like that. And you're right. Sometimes it would, when you start tracking yourself, I think that's a really good thing. I think it's good for training and it's good for dieting. But
yeah.
I'm going to cough again. Hold on one second here. Let me man, I don't know what's up. Sorry about that. And I think that once I started tracking, you'll start making decisions.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not putting those macros in now.
It's not worth it.
It's just not. I remember then, and when I went on 75 hard, the first or second time, I don't remember which one, but I would say, okay, I made a burpee list, right? And I found out how many burpees, how many calories you burn when you do a burpee. And then you start looking okay, you want a little bit of peanut butter. That's going to cost you 50 burpees. And you're like, no.
Hell no.
No. And then, because I think, tell me if you agree, I think that one thing I learned when I was first starting it, and I was like you, I've battled weight my whole life. And even in school, I wasn't the fat roly-poly, but I was definitely a bigger kid. And I lifted weights when I was a young boy anyway. At 12, 13, I already had a weight set, the plastic ones with the cement inside.
Concrete inside.
Right? And you had to make a dumbbell. You had to, it took you 10 minutes to make a dumbbell out of them. And but that's what I did. I did it ever since I was a young kid, and I liked it. I've always liked pushing the iron. And then when I got out of high school, I did powerlifting, which I don't know if you agree or not. I think that if I had to do it all over again, I wished I would have done more functional fitness type training,
Yeah.
because it just serves such more purpose in a world of martial arts and fighting.
Yeah.
Being able to pull yourself up, being able to have a core, and being able to do all that. And but if I remember us working out together. I mean, for a heavy set dude like myself, I could still get through workouts. Were you the
Mhm.
same way? Were you what would be called a
Yeah.
athlete,
I was,
a heavy
the term
set
I use
athlete?
is athletic. It's like where you're athletic, but you're just hefty.
Right, correct.
So it's like you can do the stuff, you can perform. Obviously, it'd be easier if you were lighter, but you're not sitting on the couch eating Cheetos every day. You're actually active and doing stuff, which is definitely better than the alternative. But I would say that if I, as my experience as a trainer, I think if people would do powerlifting as opposed to the traditional bodybuilding workout, I think that's superior. But I
Mhm.
also agree with you that I think like a powerlifting or a big lift style training supplemented with functional body weight, moving your body through space workouts would be a really, really good alternative for that. And then with martial arts or gymnastics or some kind of full body discipline.
Right, which I think that yeah, I think that's really good advice at that point too, because I think when I did powerlifting, there's two types of powerlifters, right? You guys got the powerlifter that's kind of on point for dinner, and you got the other powerlifter that likes to just lift heavy stuff, and eat whatever you want and make the bar bend when you squat. I mean,
Mhm.
that's kind of like what it was, and I think you're right about that. It's powerlifting was a much better. Uh, I mean, that's what got me strong for sure. Is the powerlifting, but I'll tell you, I struggle today still being able to. Well, I'll do pull-ups with bands, but I'm still not somebody that can pull up myself on a pull-up bar, and it drives me crazy. Um, or even a rope. There are certain things. If I would never ask my students to do something that I physically cannot do or have not done. So if I wanted to be done in testing, it's something I had to be able to do, and I'm not able to climb a rope and ring the bell at the very top. It's been something that drives me crazy that I just haven't been able to do yet. And so I think that I wished as a kid we had a little bit more functional
Mhm.
fitness. Even as playing football in high school and stuff, we didn't have functional fitness then either. We were pounding weights in that weight room and just
Yeah.
getting big.
Well, that was what people did back then. It was,
Mm,
the exercise. I remember when I first started doing personal training back in the '90s as a professional. It was still like, eat a crap load of carbs, no fat, just protein, like so basically white rice and chicken breast,
mhm.
and do a crap load of cardio, keep yourself in that target heart. This exercise science has evolved in the last 20-25 years by orders of magnitude. And we just simply didn't have access to it. And of course, there was no internet. So you had to like listen to what a coach said, and that coach might have been trained in the 60s. Now the information is so readily available. Now it's a matter of sorting through it to determine what actually is good and what is BS.
Well, you've had some really good. You were every once in a while you'll put out videos, the coach's thought for the day or to that effect, and you lay it out there pretty much. You talked. One. It's said quite often, but you really hit the point home about you're not going to outwork your diet.
No,
You know what I
very
mean?
hard to do.
And I remember you having that one out there, and it's the same thing for me. I mean, I can push a lot of weight. I pushed a lot of weight last night, but if you not in a calorie deficit of some sort, then you know, well, I don't know. Have you found I can sometimes be in a calorie deficit and the scale still not move?
Yeah, well, so as when we do training, when people get involved with, they think about, I'm building muscle, I'm losing fat, blah blah blah. Really, as trainers, we have what's called fat-free mass and, everything else. So fat-free mass is muscle, bone, water, etc. So your fat-free mass is going to fluctuate on, like, I know for myself, if I eat rice in any significant amount, I don't know why this is with just rice, I will be 3 pounds heavier the next day, regardless of how much calories it contains. It just causes me to retain water for 24 to 36 hours. Okay. So I haven't gained muscle, I haven't gained fat. And a lot of guys, especially dudes, like, oh, I'm going to put on 15 pounds of muscle this month. I'm like, well, we know that's probably not happen. But what they'll do is they'll have an uptake of glycogen, which brings water into the cells. So they'll gain 15 pounds, but it's not muscle. It's very, variable on what, your water retention is and how much, food still is in your system. And, so there's a lot of variation. And yeah, your caloric deficit may not affect the scale, but it's definitely necessary if you want to lose weight. The only time I've ever been successful at eating like crap and not gaining weight is when I was training for kickboxing, but I was, sparring, bag work, jump and row, probably 15 hours a week, but I would eat punch bowls full of cold cereal for dinner.
Yeah. Well, there's something to be said about, getting after it and burning calories. I'm not, I hate getting on a treadmill and stuff like that. I'd rather be hitting bags and getting after it that way. What's your thought on HIIT type training over cardio training?
I think for the everyday person, it's far, far superior. In a perfect program, you're going to have resistance, you'll have intervals, and then you'll have long, steady state. That's if you have time to train. But I think for the average American Westerner, high intensity interval training is the best bang for the buck. If you could only do one thing, that's probably the thing you should do. If you only do two things, you should do that and resistance training. And if you have the time, you should add in 1 or 2 days of long, slow distance training, treadmill, hiking, walking, whatever. But the culture has dictated that, get on treadmill and run for 45 minutes. Now, if you enjoy that, so to go back a little bit, people have always asked me, what's the best workout? What's the best program? And the best program is the one that you're going to do. So if I design a program that has the perfect amount of resistance and conditioning and cardio, but you hate it, you won't do it. So if you like long walks at the beach and sitting on an exercise bicycle, reading a magazine, and that's the only thing that you're going to do voluntarily, well, you should do that. At least start with that.
Yeah, I think that super good advice as far as that goes. My son, Daniel, my one son, he lost over 100 pounds also. Unfortunately for my son, he had an eating disorder. I don't know if you've run across this for men, where my son would throw up. That's how he actually lost his weight. And then when we found out about it, I had a very hard time finding anything for men, any kind of group, any kind of a psychologist type thing that can deal with guys and a bulimic type eating disorder. And I come to find out, it's a little bit more prevalent than what we think.
It is. So when I was a teenager and I was 215 pounds at 5'7", and I was not lifting weights, I went from that to like 215, and then by the end of my senior year of high school, I was like 163, and so I lost like 75 pounds of fat in a school year, and I was very excited about not being the fat kid anymore. And I remember distinctly, because I started tracking my food, I would go out with my friends, and we would go, eat pizza. I remember coming home and sitting on the edge of my bed and really having this powerful internal debate, like, wow, I really blew my calories today. I should really go throw up these calories. I mean, this was a real, the only thing that kept me from doing it was my absolute hatred of vomiting. That's it.
Yeah.
It wasn't even like a moral debate. It was like, well, I I really, really, really hate throwing up more than I really, really hate overeating and blowing my. At the time, I just counted calories. I didn't have any macro tracking. This is way back in the day, but so that's a real thing. And when you start making progress and you've worked so hard for it, you get in your head like, well, I done so well. I don't want to backslide, even though you and I know that if we have one day of bad eating, you're not going to undo 6 months of progress.
Right.
But
That's true.
you get afraid, like, well, what if this leads me back down that path? What if I slide back to the guy I was before? So I completely understand how bulimia can be a thing with guys, because anorexia is, because I mean, obviously we don't want to be skinny. We just don't want to be fat.
That's
As dudes,
yeah.
we want to still have size.
That's
So,
absolutely true. Yes. Luckily for my son, running is something. Isn't it funny that he could barely run a mile in high school to now, he's taken places in 5K, 10K type
fantastic.
runs where he's in the top 25 of runners. This is what, and see in his head, this is how I think he fights battles of wanting to throw up and stuff like that by running. And he will not miss a day. He'll run anywhere from 3 to 7 miles daily because he feels that's what keeps him in shape and it keeps him away. Now, this is another good thing because I was looking forward to asking you about this, because I see when you shred down, right? And you got, your six packs is popped and all that kind of stuff. And, but do you still have body dysmorphia when you look at yourself in the mirror? Because both my sons has lost over 100 pounds. They're skinny as all get out, but they just look at the mirror and they're just like, man, I'm just fat. I just don't know what's up.
That's a good question, Mark. No one's ever asked me that, because like right now I'm probably 15 pounds over what I would consider being lean-ish. When I am in really good shape, I think I don't really see myself as being, oh, I got to really get down leaner, leaner, leaner. I think I'm pretty realistic. And I don't know why I have this realistic, estimation as opposed to being dysmorphic, because that's a very common thing. I know a lot of dudes who look amazing, but they're like, well, yeah, man, look at this fat, as they squeeze, 3/8 of an inch between their fingers.
Yeah.
So for me, I think I have a pretty realistic estimation of where I am. But I don't suffer from that, but it is a real thing.
Yeah, it's good. I thought I'd ask as a coach, and at least, I think that was great that you had those same ideas that, other men have to hear other men that say, hey man, this is some real stuff that we battle with too. It's not like something that is just, you fluff off, or it's not. And, and I think that's what one thing I liked about Krav is because, there's two things you get with Krav. If you're coming in there for self-defense, getting in shape is going to be part of your journey. If you're looking to come in to get in shape, learn how to defend yourself is going to be the benefit. And so, you come from a traditional background. I think that's what I took from Krav the most was the intensity of workouts and, how to get after it in class. And because I don't remember us doing it that much in traditional martial arts.
Yeah, not in the regular classes, generally.
Yeah. Forms and stuff like that. They're a different type of workout in what you do. You get it when you're fighting and stuff like that. But, having the intensity and then putting functional fitness inside your drills, man, I think that was a game changer for me when I saw that in Krav. Those were the drills and stuff you did, and pressure testing and all that kind of stuff is what really kind of motivated me to even change my traditional style, which I still teach.
Sure.
And so, yeah, it was good for me to, I was looking forward to seeing from your coach's perspective on if you've had anybody deal mentally. We hear it all the time with the females. They have no problem letting you know how they feel. Guys, on the other hand, are pretty kind of sunken in, and I think you're correct. Is they just don't want to. That was a great way to putting it, right? We don't want to be skinny, but we don't want to be fat. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
we want to
So,
look
you
good.
know, you know, and so, that's definitely something that's true. Now, well, so I'm 61 now, right? And still, it was funny. I was lifting last night, and for some reason, I just didn't feel as strong last night. I'm a strong dude, and I'm like, what
Mhm.
is going on here? Like last night, last night I was lifting. I got these new kettlebells, and they look like Thor's
Oh,
hammers,
I saw the picture today. Yeah.
right? And I was like, do you know how heavy those 25 pounders feel? I mean, I'm like, what are you? Just a pussy. You cannot lift this. And I to do hammer curls with it, dude, was so hard. And I'm like, and I picked up the 25-pound dumbbells, and it was easy. And I'm just like, it's got to be the angle of how I'm
Yeah, the
grabbing
weight
this weight,
distribution
the weight distribution and stuff like that. But
and
and I was like, I'm literally done with workout going, I could not lift 25 pounds today. What is the deal? And that messed with my head all the way to 1:15 in the morning. I
Mhm.
was sitting there strategizing. I said, am I getting weak? Am I losing muscle? And am I losing my strength? What's going on? And if I couldn't get out of my own head. And I don't know, as you've gotten older, as an older martial artist and an older coach, as far as that
Mhm.
goes, has that changed, or do you still like to lift heavy?
Well, yes, I like to lift heavy. I don't do, like, for example, I don't do flat bench at all anymore. And my shoulders are in pretty good shape for being a martial arts guy, but the minute I do like a flat bench, the next day I'm wrecked. My biggest issue is I have a nerve damage in one of my hips, and I'm 95% sure it's from years of full power Taekwondo kicking into the air
Into the air, correct.
but that's what we did. So I can't even really do squats and deadlifts properly anymore. I can't kick high anymore. But I do like to lift heavy, and I think it's important because you don't, especially as you get older, you don't want to be skinny fat, or you don't want to lose a muscle mass. And for me, my philosophy is fitness is part of self defense. It's not a separate thing, because you can be the most technically gifted person in the world, but if you can't fight for 45 seconds or a minute at 100%, that may not be good enough. So it's important to push yourself. It's important to stay strong. That solves a lot of problems that are associated with aging for men and women, both.
Mhm.
But obviously with men, it's more dramatic since, if you were a big, strong guy in your 30s and then all of a sudden you're 55 or 60 and you're like, you have no shoulders, and you feel like, as a man, you feel like, well, I can't protect anybody. I'm not the patriarch of my family like I should be. And even as an instructor, you and I both have students that can probably handle us in conflict, but we're the dude. We're the head
Right.
of our school, and we want to feel like if something happens, if a gang of ninjas burst through that front door of the academy, we want to be leading the charge to defend the population. And that's how we need to feel. That's just where we are as our position. So I think
Mhm.
it's important to push yourself with reason, pay attention to your body, but yeah, you have to go hard, and you have to challenge yourself.
Yeah, so tell me this is me now. So I've done Taekwondo, which is the Chuck Norris system. That's my main system. I've done that since I got my black belt in 1987, right? And then I did with Farbors. I did it till I got a black belt in this Hop Keto with him, and then I did Krav Maga. And then once blood clots came along, it was my warrior mentality was taken from me, man. I was like, I can't take any hits
Mhm.
at all. Daniela says she's liking this. This is a good friend of mine and her husband um, out there near the Philly area.
Oh,
Um,
good.
I couldn't. I couldn't really. I lost my this warrior's mentality that I had
Mhm.
because I can't take any. I can't take really any pounding to the head when you're on blood thinners, right?
Right. Oh yeah, you could get
And
a hemorrhage.
you know, I could never do what we did in our phase trainings where they were just, we were listen, man, we were beating on each other pretty good. And
Yeah.
you came from a full contact background, and most of us got after it. We didn't give a shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Bring it on. I mean, it sucked at the end of the day when you do it. You know what I mean? Get us when we're fresh, not at the end of the freaking day. But
That would have been nice.
yes. And or have some 19-year-old girl that wants to do cardio right after lunch. I don't know if you remember that, man. It's just like, dude, I would literally want to kill you. Because I don't know how old you were when you went through it. I was in my 40s now. I was 41 years old when we started that.
I'm 10 years younger than you.
10 years, yeah. So you it sucked. And so I thought that I get this Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu thing. Now I've done it for a long time, but not to a seriousness. And watching you do your thing, Darryl, watch you helping coach other people and what you talk about. This is another section I want to talk about. So my love for Jiu-Jitsu came around because of the coach.
Mm-hmm.
We found somebody that has a mentality of Krav Maga, because he's a combat vet and he's an El Monte cop, right? And he's a world champion, and he had his own academy for years. And him and I really gelled. His mindset of winning, his mindset of his real mindset of what happens in real self-defense. I mean, all this came about. And I think that when you can gel with a coach, when you can gel, you will excel, is what I keep saying. And I think that, what that looks like from you from a coach's perspective, because, I'm writing a book right now. As a matter of fact, Daniela, who was just saying hi, that I hired them as my coaches for writing books. That's what they do. And, this coach really took me to another level where I felt like I got my warrior spirit back, because I can get down and grapple now.
Good.
And it's awesome. And it's super humbling at the same time, right? Because you're just like, you're just getting, I'm just getting friggin' smoked on some days, right? I'm just like, and, you come to the realization, and I've tried to compete now, even at 61, I want to test it one time. I want to get on the competition one time. I say that, but if I lose, it'll be 2 times. I'll stop when I win.
Oh yeah, you'll do it again.
And if I win the first time, I'm good to go. If I don't, it'll be another round. But I see that, that gave my warrior mindset back, because I feel like, gosh, I can at least, someone's trying to choke me out. I'm trying to choke them out. We're making contact, but it's not real head contact. And it's really taken me at in my 60s now into a whole different thing. I'm pretty much more flexible, and every day I'm pushing muscles that aren't really being used. And I believe it's keeping me in a younger mindset, in a younger look, and everything else. So it's been great. Now, I thought we would, as we wrap up towards the end, about what it's like to have a coach that can gel with you, and how do you pick clients, and how do you know, or how do you make yourself a coach that can gel with somebody?
Well, that's a good question. I have some funny jiu-jitsu stories you brought back to me. I've been in a long time, but for your question, and this is something I remember when I first started teaching. So when I first started teaching professionally, I came out here in '93. I was teaching for another instructor, and I was already I think a secondary black belt in Taekwondo. And if somebody would stop training, I would be devastated. I'm like, I can't believe this person would quit. What did I do wrong? And then as you mature as a coach, you realize everybody has a lifespan in your tutelage. Some will be 20 years, some will be 2 months, and you want to serve the best you can, but obviously reflect on if you could have done something better. What I've learned, and I'd say in the last 10 to 15 years, is to be way more selective on who you work with. Again, you want to gel, you want to have the connection, because I'm not the coach for everybody. And clients sometimes don't work with my style of delivery or my philosophy. And that's really important, because if you take on someone because, well, they need a coach, or you just need the money, then you're going to be shoehorning this personality conflict, and it's not going to be good for either one of you. And so it's when I choose clients for like one-on-one clients now, I'm really selective. I would only take somebody who, like, I think, well, do I want to, would I want to go out and hang out with this person for an afternoon without trading? Okay. If so, then that'll be a client that I'll take on. The exception would be if someone's like going, hey, my ex-boyfriend's coming after me, and I need to learn self-defense right now. That would be a possible exception. But clients need to do the same thing with their coach. So when you go into an academy or you find a trainer, you think so, would I be okay with spending time with this person if we weren't actually, working, if it wasn't a paid, transaction? Do we have a philosophy on life that's roughly congruent? And that will go a long way into making that longevity, that lifespan of a client, to be as long as possible, as fruitful as possible. So that's you're right about having to what'd you say? You will excel if you gel, or
Yeah, if you gel, you will excel.
okay.
That's for
I like
sure.
that.
You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
and it's as I get older too, I can feel it right out of the gate. If somebody I want coaching me, I'm kind of a no nonsense guy. I mean, I'm pretty much, I just lay it out there the way it is. It is what it is. I don't really have time to beat around the bush. It is what it is. And stuff like that. But that was really good what you just said a second ago, though, Darryl, about, I like the way you put, because I was the same way you were as a younger man and as a young studio owner. I used to take things so personally when somebody would quit, and I like the way you put it, that you've realized that everybody has a lifespan with you. And you're right. I've had people that have been here from day one. I still, my main instructor here has been with me. He's 44 years old now, married with a children. He's been with me since he's 12.
Mm-hmm.
He's just been with me on the journey the whole way through. And I have a unique thing that I've had a school now for 33 years, right? And so I have people here that have been with me since they're 3 all the way to and then they go to college, and sometimes I see them after college, sometimes I don't, you know what I mean? And it's a weird thing too. You see your students grow up a little bit different, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, and wow, our philosophies, even politically and in life, are so much different now. It's like sometimes some of them won't even talk to you. You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
because
those.
it's like, wow. I said I spent my life teaching you life lessons, and it goes. So I think that was a really good point that you made, that not to take things as personal, because everybody does have a lifespan, and why they're with you in that lifespan, you got to be the coach or the instructor that they need for that lifetime. Because I don't know, I guess you get that resentment, right? As a young martial arts school owner, you know what I'm talking about now.
Yes.
So as I would get resentment that you're just going to be not here. You know what I mean? You're just, how do you just up and go?
Yeah. When
And
I was younger, I couldn't comprehend that somebody would ever stop doing martial arts, because it was my passion, but for
yeah,
some people it's a pastime.
correct. Yes. And I had to get that martial arts. If I want you for a longevity, martial arts has to be part of your life. For us, it is our life. You know what I mean? So I think that's a really good, a good way of looking at that. And that's just not for martial arts, right? That's just for coaching in general,
Anything.
or for being a boss in general. I even sometimes, I have employees here now, and I know there's a lifespan of them. As much as I wrestled the most with, how can I make this academy where, how hard it is having an academy. It's not, unless you have a mega academy. And even when you have one of those, having people that have major pay that can keep them in your academy, and I think that's the main thing. I think people a lot of times, I wrestle with that myself. I said, how can I give, my main guy, how can I make a living for him,
Yeah.
where this is where it's at, because we only have a finite amount of stuff that we do, and we have businesses. And, you know, I went about growing a organization on the outside also, and, you know, being a coach and stuff like myself and having people rally around me, um, has been awesome, you know, and it's allowed me to have students that have their own schools, and those students are making a living or taking Krav to the next level or expanding their school based on what we've done. And you know, I wish that's what we had when we were going through. They didn't really coach us that way. This
No.
is one thing that I wanted to change. I wanted to say, this is how you make money teaching martial arts. And you know, it's a weird, I don't know if you've had it too, right? This just happened to me not too long ago in my office, right? This is somebody that was just going to school, and all of a sudden they graduate with being able to do bookkeeping and that type of thing, right? And when their family's coming up the ranks, it's always like, what's the family discount? What can I get? What can I get? And then when I needed something, I say, what's it going to cost me to have you help me with some booking? And she goes, oh, well, something like that's an $80 an hour deal. And I'm like, we shortchange ourselves as life coaches, man.
Mhm.
And that was a major eye opening to me. Like, why do I feel bad charging people? Why
Yeah,
do
that's a
martial
weird
arts school
dynamic.
owners have a stigma or a coach, right? Your time at the gym, right? They know you coach. So how many people hit you up for advice at the gym?
It happens
When
on a regular basis.
that's correct. And you know, and I don't mind giving people advice and doing and stuff here, but our time is just not as valuable. And
Mhm.
that's a problem. You know what I mean? That and so, you know, I think just that one little sentence that you said today, I'll remember that they have a lifespan with you, and I think that's how it has to look because you're going to have students that are long, right?
Mhm.
I, I don't know who it was, Dave Kovar or somebody had talked about when they first start with you, they're customers. It's
Mhm.
not till they make a commitment with you do they become a student. You know what I
That's
mean?
a very accurate statement.
You know, and there's a level of somebody that's your customer and you want to treat your customer with love and respect, but then you have a student. Now the relationship kind of changes, you know. And so I thought you had some good stuff. Now are you still coaching? Do you still do your coaching physical coaching, or do you pick and choose for that at that time now? One-on-one
I
coaching.
do take on clients occasionally. Most of what I do now is I have an academy. I teach the advanced groups. I do a lot of seminars, a lot of workshops for like in-person clients outside of the students. I do take them, but there's a vetting process, which I think should work both ways.
Mhm.
So when I have a good client who's going to benefit and appreciate what I do, and I look forward to seeing them grow, and they're going to actually utilize the strategies, that's awesome. I love that. So, but a lot of clients, they everybody wants stuff, but do they really want to invest in stuff? And that's really an
That's
important
true.
distinction.
A lot of people want books and say they're going to read, so they have a library of self-help books that's never been opened. So
45 on the shelf.
that's that is true. Uh I just bought a book the other day. It's titled "How Not to Give a F." And
Mhm.
so and talking about that same thing because I take things to heart so much on certain things that
Mhm.
it's to the detriment of myself because so I saw also that you were doing some coaching. I've been involved in coaching other martial arts schools for a long time on how to make a living because in the
Mhm.
beginning I almost closed my doors 6 months in, and I found a mentor and a coach in Tennessee that took me under his wings and taught me how to run a business, a martial arts business.
Yeah,
And
that's a big distinction.
yes, and it's it was eye-opening that week of going to somebody that is making a major living out of a studio, and somebody that owned the property that his studio was on, and the philosophies behind what that looked like. And that's probably what saved me in the pandemic, because I own the building that we have here.
Mm-hmm.
And so I didn't have landlords that I had to contend with at that time, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that I saw that you were doing that for a while.
Mm-hmm.
How did you enjoy doing that? How many people actually listened to your
Well,
advice?
here's the thing that I think you would agree with on this. The martial arts industry is a very odd world. When you start working with entrepreneurs and business owners of normal businesses, they tend to be a lot more open-minded for consultation, coaching, ideas. Martial arts guys tend to be very dogmatic, and it's like, this is the way it's got to be. I don't want to try anything different. Fitness folks are slightly better, but your typical a guy who runs a bookkeeping business or a carpet cleaning business, or those folks are way more open-minded about how they can make changes in their business than your typical martial arts guy is.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
Right.
quite
I ran
enjoyable.
into that same thing. I ran into the oh, well, we don't do things like that, or the ranking and not wanting to change curriculum. And I'm just like, bro, man, you've got to have other, you have to have streams of income inside your business, or you're just not going to have a business. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
stuff
And
that
so,
other businesses just do. They don't fight it. They're just like, oh, I can do this cool thing and help my customers and make more revenue. Oh, let me do that.
yeah, that's true. That's true. So it was, yeah, that's so true. So this was good, man. I wish, it was really good catching up with you today for
Yeah,
this hour. When I come down to, and I'll tell my students too that, what we'll do after this too. I think in your bio, did you give me your school name and all that, where you're at or
I
not?
believe. Yeah, I believe so.
Okay. So on the website, because we'll make the audio for this by end of day, there'll be an audio version of this video, so you'll be able to share YouTube or the Facebook
Fantastic.
video we did today, and I have it as audio, because that's really my love. Was when I first started podcasting, I did it because I like the audio portion where you can drive. I don't know if you
Yeah,
listen to
just
a
put
lot
it
of
in your.
podcasts, but I do.
Yeah,
I like
I
listening to
yeah,
podcasts when
I
I
do a lot
drive.
of video. Like I started doing. I've been doing videos since like 2008 or whatever, but it's like I got really into it. Well, really during the pandemic, I go. So I'm going to invest in some equipment. I'm going to make sure look at the formatting, and I consume almost all of my information on short form video. I
Hmm.
don't watch TV. I don't watch news. I don't. So I'm a big video fan, but I do like the podcast for driving. I go
Right.
to Arizona probably 7, 8 times a year to go train at my friend's school, and we do business together. So yeah, podcasts are great for that.
So we'll have the audio version. You'll be able to kind of share this out with your friends. I think it's a really good, candid talk today about a lot of things about physical fitness and the industry. They got to meet you a little bit, because I tell you about my partner. I said I had a partner named Darryl in Krav Maga training. Him and I got the shit kicked out of us,
That was rough.
on a daily, and until we, I remember those days where I don't know if you remember that, man. We're just like, I'm so over you hitting me, man. We're
Yeah,
gonna freaking go. We're gonna go. You know
yeah,
what I
that's
mean?
gonna be. This
And,
is yeah. It was
and I just so remember that so well. So
bruising.
yes, yes, correct. So yeah, this was great. So I'm going to let you know when I'm up in San Diego. I'll let my students know
Yeah,
too if they want to get in a Krav Maga class. Just to step in and say you're one of Mark Cox's students,
yeah, they're always
and let them
welcome.
come and visit you. And when next time I come into town, what we'll do is we'll go grab some coffee, and we'll hash out the old days when we survived phase A, B, and C of
Yeah,
worldwide.
sounds
You
good,
know,
man.
all right. It was really good catching up with you, man.
My pleasure.
All
It was
right.
fun.
I'll see you soon.
All right, Mark. Thanks so
Bye.
much.
All right, sir. Bye bye.